The hand hit his chest before anyone realized who he was. "Sir, you need to leave. Now." The words were sharp, firm, public. The security guard didn't hesitate. He stepped between the massive man and the backstage entrance, palm pressed flat against solid muscle. Cameras were already rolling, and for a split second, the arena lights caught the face of the man being shoved backward. It was Dwayne Johnson. The crowd gasped. Not gradually. All at once. The event was sold out. Red carpet interviews were wrapping up. Staff were moving quickly between restricted areas. The Rock had arrived later than expected. No entourage, no dramatic entrance. Just a black jacket, gym bag slung over one shoulder, walking toward the performer's corridor. And one guard, newly assigned to the venue, didn't recognize him. "Credentials," the guard demanded. The Rock stopped. "Calm. They're inside," he replied evenly. "That's not how this works." The guard snapped, tightening his grip. Phones lifted immediately, because tension spreads fast in a public space. The Rock didn't push back, didn't raise his voice. He simply lowered his bag to the floor and held up his hand slightly. "Easy," he said, but the guard mistook calm for compliance. He reached for the radio on his shoulder. "I've got an unauthorized individual attempting backstage access." Unauthorized. The word echoed strangely in the air. Whispers rippled through the nearby crowd. That's The Rock. Does he not know? Is this staged? It didn't look staged. The guard's jaw was tight, his stance rigid. He believed he was doing his job. And maybe he was. But context matters. Inside the arena, production assistants were watching the live feed from an exterior camera. One of them froze mid-sip of coffee. "Is that?" Another leaned closer to the monitor. "Oh no." Outside, the guard stepped slightly closer. "I'm asking you one more time to step away from the entrance." The Rock exhaled slowly. He could have moved the man aside without effort. The difference in size was almost unreal. But he didn't. He simply said, "Call your supervisor." Not angry, not defensive, just steady. The guard shook his head. "You don't get to give orders here." That sentence landed wrong, because the cameras caught everything. The tone, the posture, the misjudgment. And the crowd began reacting louder now. Not cheering, not booing, just confused energy building in waves. Then it happened. The guard reached for the Rock's arm, firmly this time. A visible grab. That's when the arena screens flickered, because someone inside had switched the exterior camera feed to the main display accidentally. And suddenly, 18,000 people inside the arena were watching the confrontation live. Gasps rolled through the building like thunder. On the giant screen, the guard gripping his arm, The Rock standing still, the crowd outside filming. Inside, the audience started murmuring louder. "What's going on? Why is security grabbing him?" Backstage, executives scrambled. "Cut the feed. Get someone out there now." But the damage, or rather, the truth, was already visible. The Rock gently removed the guard's hand from his arm. Not aggressive, not forceful, just controlled. "Relax," he said quietly. The microphones near the entrance caught it clearly. "Relax." At that exact moment, the venue's operations manager burst through the side door, nearly out of breath. "Stand down," he shouted. The guard turned, confused. "That's..." The manager started, then stopped himself, realizing every word was echoing through the arena speakers. He composed himself. "That's Mr. Johnson." The guard's face changed instantly, from authority to realization. Inside the arena, the crowd reacted in unison. A wave of sound. Not mocking, not cruel, just collective awareness. They had seen the entire exchange. Unedited. Raw. The guard stepped back quickly. I didn't recognize." The Rock raised a hand slightly. "It's all right," he said. And somehow, that made it louder. Because he wasn't offended. He wasn't escalating. He wasn't humiliating the man publicly. He was diffusing it. The operations manager leaned in, whispering urgently, apologizing. The Rock nodded once. "Let him do his job," he said calmly. The crowd inside erupted into applause. Not because someone got exposed, but because composure under pressure is magnetic. The guard stood frozen for a moment. Then something unexpected happened. The Rock extended his hand. Not dramatically, just simply. The guard hesitated, then shook it. The cameras caught that too. Every angle, every detail. Inside, the accidental broadcast turned into something else entirely. A lesson. Because what could have become confrontation became control. What could have gone viral for chaos went viral for restraint. As The Rock finally walked through the entrance, the arena gave him a standing ovation before he even stepped onto the stage. He hadn't delivered a speech. He hadn't thrown a punch. He hadn't demanded respect. He'd shown it, and that forced everyone watching to give it back. The applause inside the arena didn't fade quickly. It rolled, deep and sustained, like the building itself understood something had just been tested and passed. Backstage doors opened wider now. Staff members moved aside instinctively, not out of fear, but respect recalibrated in real time. The Rock stepped through the corridor calmly. No change in stride, no visible frustration. If anything, he looked lighter. In the control room, producers replayed the clip over and over. Zoom on the handshake. Cut from the grab to the release. Keep the audio on when he says relax. They weren't crafting drama. They were documenting contrast. Because what the cameras had caught wasn't a celebrity losing patience. It was authority choosing composure. Out near the entrance, the security guard stood still for a moment after the handshake. Other guards glanced at him cautiously, unsure what to say. "You good?" one asked quietly. He nodded. "Yeah." But his tone had changed. Not defensive, reflective. He replayed the moment in his head, the grip, the realization, the calm response. He'd expected anger. He'd braced for confrontation. Instead, he got steadiness. And that unsettles you in a different way. Inside the arena, the event host tried to regain momentum. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice slightly louder than necessary. "Please welcome." He didn't even finish the sentence before the crowd roared again. Because now they weren't just reacting to a star. They were reacting to context, to what they had just seen. The Rock stepped onto the stage under blinding lights, raising a hand in acknowledgement. The ovation swelled. Not hype. Recognition. He reached for the microphone, paused, looked out over the sea of faces. "You saw that," he said simply. The crowd responded with a wave of cheers. He nodded once. Security did his job. That line landed unexpectedly. Some people had anticipated a joke, a light jab, maybe even a playful remark. But he didn't go there. He protected the building. The Rock continued. That's what he's supposed to do. The energy shifted again, from spectacle to respect. "And if we all did our jobs with that much focus," he added, "we'd all be all right." The applause deepened. Back near the entrance, someone replayed the broadcast on a phone for the guard. He watched himself on screen. The grab, the correction, the handshake. He exhaled slowly. Not humiliated, just humbled. Because millions would see that clip by morning. And what they'd see wasn't a villain. They'd see a moment that could have escalated, and didn't. On stage, the event moved forward. But something subtle lingered in the air. Every interaction felt slightly more grounded. Every announcement carried a little more weight. Because tension had already peaked and been resolved. Before the main event even began. During a brief intermission, the operations manager approached The Rock again backstage. "Thank you for handling that the way you did," he said quietly. The Rock shrugged lightly. No need to make it bigger than it was. But that was the thing. It had been big. Not because of status. Because of visibility. Cameras don't just capture mistakes. They capture responses. By the time the event ended, clips of the handshake were trending. Slow-motion edits. Zoomed-in reactions from the crowd. Close-ups of the moment the guard realized who he was dealing with. But the most shared version ended on the same frame. The Rock extending his hand first. That detail mattered. Later that night, long after the lights dimmed and the crowd dispersed, the security guard sat alone in the break room scrolling through the footage. Comments flooded in. Handled with class. That's leadership. Respect both sides. He leaned back in his chair. He'd woken up expecting an ordinary shift. Instead, he became part of a viral lesson on composure. Across town, in a quiet hotel suite, Dwayne Johnson stood by the window overlooking city lights. He wasn't replaying the grab. He wasn't thinking about the broadcast glitch. He was thinking about the handshake. About how quickly tension can flip, depending on how you respond. Strength isn't about overpowering. It's about stabilizing. And tonight, stabilization echoed louder than confrontation ever could. By the time the crowd settled, the energy in the arena had shifted permanently. No one was talking about the nearly mistaken grab anymore. The narrative had already changed. It wasn't about tension. It wasn't about who was right or wrong. It was about presence. About calm in the eye of chaos. Cameras followed The Rock as he made his way down the hallway, waving briefly to fans and staff alike. Every step measured. every nod deliberate. The guards who had been tense earlier now straightened, subtly mirroring his posture without realizing it. Because influence doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just radiates. Backstage, a few crew members who had recorded the event on their phones gathered around, whispering. "That was unreal," one said. "Yeah," another replied, eyes still glued to the playback. "He didn't even raise a hand. Just handled it." The words hung in the air, heavier than applause. The lesson was already clear. Composure can silence more than authority. Outside, social media was ablaze. Short clips went viral within minutes. Hashtags trended. Memes circulated. Not mocking, not critical, admiring. Hashtag rocksteady. Hashtag calm under pressure. Hashtag handshake over hype. Every clip ended the same way. The Rock's calm expression, hand extended, eyes steady, even as the cameras caught the guard's stunned reaction. The guard himself replayed it again, leaning against the wall in a quiet corridor. He exhaled slowly, feeling both relief and disbelief. He had been ready to escalate, ready to assert control, ready to prove he was in charge. And yet, in one subtle move, The Rock had rewritten the entire interaction. It wasn't humiliation. It wasn't dominance. It was mastery of presence. In the control room, producers continued to scrub the footage for highlights. Every angle told the same story. Tension met composure. Ego met patience. Mistake met mentorship, without a word being raised in anger. "That's going to be everywhere by morning," one muttered. Another nodded. And the way he handled it? People will talk about it longer than the event itself. The Rock paused briefly at a window overlooking the city, arms resting on the ledge. The night was quiet here, far removed from the roar of the arena. He thought about the guard. Not to gloat, not to teach, but to reflect. Because sometimes the real power isn't in proving your own strength. It's in allowing others to see theirs and guiding them to realize it themselves. By dawn, the clip had thousands of views. By midday, millions. News outlets covered it. Sports networks replayed it. Analysts dissected the posture, the timing, the silence. It became more than a viral moment. It became a case study in how calm can outlast chaos. And back in the now empty arena, the echoes of applause and murmurs lingered like a quiet lesson carved into concrete walls. The staff who had witnessed it firsthand knew something the cameras only hinted at. True authority isn't loud. True control isn't forceful. And real respect? It's earned with patience, presence, and a single calm decision in the split second everyone else thought they could act first. The Rock had shown it. And for anyone watching, either live or on the screen, the message was unmistakable. Power isn't what you take. It's what you project, without a single ounce of aggression. And sometimes, that's louder than 1,000 voices combined.